coders, and welcome to Replit 101, the live stream where we try to solve all your coding problems, or at least we try and get Ghostwriter Chat and other AI tools to solve your coding problems. But hello, I haven't seen you guys for a good month now. Last time we were due to have a stream, it was in that 2-week period where us in the UK are not quite in the same time difference as the rest of the US, because we go daylight saving times about 2 weeks later, and that caused a few problems with scheduling, so apologies for that. But your regular programming is resumed. I'm here and we're ready to go. So this week we've got a lot of questions in the chat, which we'll get to in a minute. But as usual, we kick off with talking about all the new stuff on Replit since last time I talked to you. And there's a bit of a list because it's been quite a while. So the very first thing I want to show you about is probably a bit of a PSA for most people. We have had outbound data transfer limits in our terms and conditions for a long time. But from, I think, about the 6th of April, we're going to start to enforce them. Now, for 99% of people, this isn't going to affect you at all. It's only really going to affect a small number of people with either ridiculously popular REPLs, or if you're hosting huge files in a REPL. And actually, the limits are reasonably good. It's 10 gigabits of outbound data transfer for the free plan, 50 for Hacker, and 100 for Hacker Pro. And then we are selling egress then at, I think, well, should we have a look? Should we have a look? I'll go to my account and show you where the check is. So if you're worried about this, it's a great place to go and have a look. Go to your account tab, have a scroll down, and you've now got this beautiful new resource usage meter. And you can see just hovering over it, it breaks down the usage for all my apps there. Just to sort of put something in perspective for you, the OpenAI Whisper transcriber, which is the second one there, is my most popular REPL. Wasn't like 14,000 forks, no, maybe 14,000 runs, maybe. Anyway, it's quite popular. It's still trending at the moment, and I've only used 0.1 gigabyte. So I think that's pretty good. I think, like we say, most people are not going to feel this problem. But if you do need to increase it for any reason, you can increase it with cycles. And it's 10 cycles per gigabyte, which is about 10 cents, I think. So it's well worth it if you need that extra space. And there we go. So we are going to be enforcing that, but we've got a nice way of tracking it and a nice way of knowing everything that's going on there. We've also got some nice, cool things on bounties. For a start, it now tells us how much is open in bounties, so how much we can earn from bounties that are there at the moment. But also, we've got this brand new feature called services. And this is where, if you're a bounty hunter, you can post a collection of sort of skills and services that you have that you'd like to sell, and you have a fixed price for it. This means you can resell the same sort of services, like, you know, making a Discord bot, integrating OpenAI into something, and you can sell that to bounty posters for a fixed price and get more work that way. Now, we did have a question in the chat from QWERTY who asked, will everyone be able to create services eventually, or only the people who filled out the form? You make services, aren't you coding for people like code reviews or something? The honest answer is, I think we are 100% definitely whitelisting it for a moment, but there is a form you can fill out to apply for that. So if you are interested in doing it, I'll pop a link to the form in the chat right now. And that's going through. There we go. So that form will take you through to sign up if you are a bounty hunter and you'd like to give a service. Obviously, that's being very highly checked and double checked at the moment to make sure that the first few people on the service are providing a good service. But yeah, I don't know what the plans are really long term for that, whether we're going to open it up to everyone. I imagine there'll be some kind of you know, wall in it to stop just anybody putting a service on there. At least some checks and balances to make sure that you're able to do that. So I'm not sure what the time, the hacker dude said, when do you think we'll have our services approved? Again, I'm not sure what the time scale is. The bounties team, I do know well, but I can check to see. So I'm just going to, while I'm talking to you, I'm just going to jump into Slack and ask somebody so we can maybe get an answer on this. If I say any idea what the time scale for being approved bounty services is. This is really interesting viewing, isn't it? Watching me type a message. There you go. And if I get a reply, I will let you guys know first. But yeah, it shouldn't be that long. It's everything's being reviewed in detail at the moment because the first batch of services. But it's a really good way of selling your services in a more discreet and obvious way, which is quite nice, I think. But if you're interested in that, do fill out the form, and hopefully you'll get approved reasonably quickly, and then you can do that. Now, in terms of QWERTY's original question, which was, can you make services that aren't you coding for people, like code reviews? Bounties have been quite flexible so far, haven't they? There's been a lot of bounties for things like code reviews. So yeah, I don't see why not, but that's something you have to discuss when you put in your request for the service. And I'm sure if you've got an innovative, interesting, out-the-box kind of idea for a service, that I'm sure that'll be something that people will be interested in purchasing from you. So yeah, apply for it and see where you get. I'm not in charge of that team, so I can't say yes or no outright, but I can say the people in the team are very, very good. Very, very good. And so they will be able to help you out as much as possible. Okay. Okay, so I just had a message back from the team. Priority for approval for services is going to bounty hunters that have already earned, so with a proven track record. Everyone else then will be reviewed at that point, which may be a little bit longer. But do get in contact if you're like, I've got a service, I think it's really innovative, I think it's really unique, or I think I can really sell this. Do drop the bounties team a message and just see if we can prioritize that. But at the moment, we're giving priority to people with a proven track record of earning on bounties. So I'm just going to say thank you for that, because that was very good service from the bounties team. I told you they are very, very good. And what else is new? Well, we've got themes on mobile now, so your lovely themes can work on mobile. If you are interested in writing extensions, we've got docs for those now to help you write. And some of these extensions that people are writing are amazing, which is like, I'm getting excited, but extensions is really going to change the way we use Replit, because there are so many cool extensions being built, and the scope of that is massive. Just to be able to incorporate other third-party tools into the product, or just do cool things. Wait until launch; you'll be very excited. We've also got a cool new invite to the multiplayer, and I'm going to show you this because it's made such a big difference to me. I'm just going to create a blank REPL at the moment. And I think I can get this modal up straight away, but there you go. This has been totally redesigned to be more modern. The invite system is a lot nicer. Let me do, here we go. So I can invite people much quicker through that. And you can see there's an easy way to remove the member, and you can see whether they're online or offline. But the private join link is really cool as well now. It's a nice big button, and to copy it is like a 2-button job, and it's not taking over the entire screen in a modal way like it was before. So that's been a massive quality of life improvement for me, and I'm sure many of you will as well. Billing's also had a bit of a makeover, which is pretty cool for most of us, because if you're like me and you turn on a feature in a REPL and you're paying for that feature, and then you move away from it and you forget about it, then you're being charged for it in the background for a while. Our new My Cycles page breaks down REPLs and what boosts you put on them. So I've got an always on. I've got a boosted REPL here that I didn't realize I turned up quite that high. So I might go in and turn that back down now before I get charged for it. There we go. And you can see how much nicer that was, just in case of managing your REPLs and stuff there. It's nice and easy to see that. So that's showing me that there now, because that's still active until the cutoff. But it's just a nice way to go to see where you're spending your money and what's happening there. So that detail and the billing, very, very nice. The final thing I want to show you is our new AI templates, because since last time we did a live stream, I've done a lot of videos on AI, including some that have gone really, really well. And of course, we've had many OpenAI models released since last time. So I think last time I talked to you guys, we hadn't even had GPT 3.5 released yet. But you can see here we've got Node and Python templates for GPT-4 and GPT 3.5, as well as Whisper there. And seriously, getting into this is so easy. If you go and watch my can I make an app in 3 minutes video, it is very, very easy with these templates to, well, I'll pick one. Let's pick the Python GPT-4 one. And once it loads, all I have to do to it to make a working interactive GPT-4 or GPT 3.5 client is add my secret, add my API key. So literally all I have to do is go into my secrets manager, add in an OpenAI API key, and paste it in. I won't do that now because you'll all see my fantastic key, and click run, and that'll just work. That'll connect. And initially it's having a conversation where it's asking who won the World Series. I think, yeah, there we go. And then give us a bit more detail on it, on its general knowledge base, which is pretty cool. And of course, to swap between the models, it's just this. So GPT 3.5 Turbo is the cheap one. It's not as detailed, not as in-depth as GPT-4, but it's still pretty cool. And you can all, if you've got early access to this, you can also do the GPT-4 32K model, which is brilliant. It takes 32,000 tokens in one, which means you can give it entire works of literature, entire like knowledge bases very, very quickly. It's a little bit expensive though, because it is about, I think, 20 times more expensive than GPT 3.5. Locust has asked, will it ever be possible to have two people do a bounty and split the cycles? I'm sure that's something the bounties team are thinking of, but you know, we are doing the job of building this in the wild here, building bounties. You know, everything you see is new. We're building it as we go to take on interest in that. I don't see a reason why we couldn't do it. I don't know if that's on the plan at the moment. So yeah, it seems like a good idea though. It seems like a good idea to have a team of people that can build something, because if you've got a team of people, you can build something much greater in scope. I suppose the workaround for that at the moment is that one person does the bounty application, the team work on it, and the main person receives the cycles and then splits them amongst the team. So there are workarounds at the moment, but if you're interested in that, again, contact the bounties team. The bounties team will be loving all your feedback and all the information you want to provide to them about why you might want to do that and how that might help working on those higher value bounties. Locus also says, for the multiplayer invite UI, will we be able to change the permissions for the invites? Now, we don't, I understand completely what you mean, because when I did that, then we had, I'll just invite myself again. Having a million alt accounts is quite useful sometimes. And you'll see that I've got the option can edit, but I can't change that. And that's because we don't have an idea of like a view only multiplayer invite in Replit yet. It is something that I've been asking for the engineering team for a while. So, you know, I would love it as a teacher. That seems genius to me, that we could send out like a multiplayer invite link and you could just watch me build wherever you happen to be. We don't have that functionality yet though, but there's got to be a reason that's been shown there. So we can only hope that one day that'll get turned in. So not at the moment, but again, we do have feature requests. If you go into the help section, so if you go to, I'm in the sidebar up, there it is, couldn't even see the help button. That's because I got stuff over the top of it. There you go. Right at the bottom on the left hand side there, we've got a help button, and that help button then will allow us to go in and get help, and we can, I hope, there you go, file a feature request. So if there's anything you'd like, feature request it, because the more people feature request it, the bigger the noise is about a specific feature. So if you do have skin in the game for a specific feature, go and feature request it so we can make sure that we get eyes on that. Okay. Anything else on my list? No, that's it. We've had loads of releases, to be perfectly honest, over the last month. At Replit, we're always shipping. So if I don't see you guys for a month, there's a big list of things to get through. But that's nothing compared to next month, let me tell you. I've got so many videos to record to show you how to use all the new cool features. I really can't wait for you guys to see what's coming out in the next month. But that's for That's for later on. We'll talk about that later. It's very, very cool. It's going to be one of our biggest shipping seasons ever. And I know we're always shipping, but seriously, one of our biggest shipping seasons ever next month. Okay, let's get started with the questions then. I did promise that we'd have a look at Hydrogen's question, I think, which was about Rust. Now, I'm going to say, here's Hydrogen's question. Using something that needs Rust 1.25, but the template has 1.24. So let's see what we can do about going into that and see if we can change it. Now, my first thought here is to use Nix, but I did see in the conversation that might not be possible. So let's start up by using by creating a REPL using the Rust template. Okay. So now we've got a Rust and a Rust beta. Now, Hydrogen, if anybody's in the chat that knows anything about Rust, is there a specific difference between Rust and Rust beta that I should know about? Let's pull in normal Rust and we'll see how we go. Now, one of my first thoughts is to go and see if, where is the Nix package coming from? Which version is it? And can we customize that? Okay, so again, I know nothing about Rust. Let's have a look. Does that work? Whoa, there's a lot of stuff going on there. Is that exclamation syntax a thing? That doesn't seem nice. If you developed in Rust, do tell me. Is the exclamation mark part of every command? Is that a thing? That seems very laborious. Hydrogen says he checked Rust beta and it seems the same. Cool. Well, we'll have a look, and I'll go back up and get your original question up now because I've lost that. Right. Was it a particular thing that you wanted to install, Hydrogen? If you can pop it in the comments, I'll have a look. Oh, okay. Hydrogen says the exclamation point means a macro. Oh, that's interesting. So it's a differentiator there. That's quite cool. Okay. Anyway, let's get on with it. The replit.nix files. The replit.nix file, of course, which is popped up here, but I'll bring it over to my main page here, is the file that contains all the packages that are going to be installed when it runs. So in our replit file, we should be able to see which channel we're on. So we're on stable 2211. And I'm just going to pop on my toolbar because if I go Nix packages, there we go. And clearly this is my top hit because I'm here all the time. 22.11, is that what we were using? 22.11, okay. So Rust, can't spell tonight. Let's have a look. What have we got? Okay, we've got a lot of Rust stuff. Let's do Rust. And which version did you want? 1.25. Let's see what we get out of there. There's a lot going on with Rust, which is quite difficult to work out. So let's go back and have a look at our replit.nix file. So Rust C seems to be the major package. Let's have a look at what that is. Okay, it's version 1.64.0 apparently. So how do I know what version of Rust I'm actually running then? Is there a command I can put into the shell for that? Let's have a look. Just Googling shell command Rust version. Let's have a look. Well, I'm getting lots of nonsense here. If anybody does know the command to find out the version of it, cargo -v. Thank you, Hydrogen. Cargo. Right, that's going to cause a problem if I'm typing in the wrong window. Cargo -v. Okay. 1.64.0. That seems like it's okay for you. Are you using an old version of a template, maybe? Hydrogen, if you want to share yours with me, I'm quite happy to take a look at it and see where we're going. You may not be able to put the link in the chat, though. So what I'll do is I'll pop my Replit username, which is, he says very confidently. There we go. David at Replit is my Replit username. If you want to invite me to multiplayer it, I'll go and take a quick look for you. Oh, that's the cargo version. I wonder if we can just do Rust -v. Let's have a look. Oh, not command not found. All right, fair enough then. Rust C, is it? Okay, right. So there's got to be a help option somewhere, hasn't there? Hey, there we go. Uh, and this is where so V was the verbose flag, so it was just telling us a load of nonsense in a in a long way. Let's have a look. Oh, I hate these help pages, honestly. There's bound to be one that does a version. Let's make this a bit wider because I'm not happy with the wrapping there. The problem with it, with these sort of libraries, these sort of programs, is because they're so complicated. I mean, I'm not sure if Rust is a compiled language or an interpreted language, but regardless, these things, be it the compiler or the interpreter, are really complicated programs. So it does take a while for that to work. And the help menu, right? Okay, Rust C version. Let's have a look. Do you know what? Let's try Ghostwriter, see if that can help us. Because, we've got all these things, and let's have a go. Where's my Ghostwriter gone? There you are, buddy. Right. How do I use the shell to find out the version of Rust C I'm using? Let's see if Ghostwriter can help us with this. Oh, right. Quite straightforward in the end. This is why AI is going to change the world, because I was Googling for that for ages. There we go. 1.64.0 as well. That's interesting. So Hydrogen thinks they've invited me. So let's go to my notifications, which is up here. Here we go. Hopefully, Hydrogen, there's no closed source code you got there. Oh, no. Okay. We've got the same sort of print line one. So let's go into here and have a look what version we've got here. It's 1.64. So that seems to be good enough. But does it like literally need version 1.25? Is that the only version it works on? I'm not sure. The nice thing is with Nix is you can like downgrade the packages, because the packages exist for all the previous versions. So if you can find the package for Rust 1.25 you wanted? I can't find the message now. But if you can find that, then it's very, very easy to turn it back. I'm sure if we have a look at Rust C, then we probably have older versions. So Rust C 1.2425. This is the latest channel though, so we might have to find it in here. We have to look elsewhere. We'll have a search later on, but certainly we should be able to downgrade it. Certainly, look, when we do Python, right? There were big changes in the last version of Python, and that's something that sometimes you need to turn back to the older version just to get a few things working correctly. So I go into my REPL templates quite often and turn the version back to make sure it's working the way I was expecting it to work. So it is possible. I'm just watching you type now. So I'm I'm going to go back to my homepage, so I'm not watching you type, Hydrogen, but thank you. Let's again, what we need to do is get our Nix people on there, I think. And if we go to our package manager, channel 22.11 is giving us the Rust C. So what we need to do is just find the older version of the Rust C package. So if I go here, there must be a historical version of it somewhere. Maybe not. Maybe not. Okay, I'm going to assume there is. Well, this is not going to be a live stream of me just staring quietly at the Nix OS page, but I tell you what to do, Hydrogen. If you want to downgrade that version, drop a question in the Ask forum, because somebody more knowledgeable than me will be able to point you in the right direction of a Nix package. I am very much a Nix beginner. I can fiddle with it, and if I can find the package, I can get it all working. I've even set up WordPress to work on Replit by using Nix packages, but I'm not an expert. So why don't you drop a question in the Ask forum, and hopefully by this time tomorrow, you'll have a bunch of answers from people that are a bit more knowledgeable about Nix than me. Okay, we've got a question from QWERTY, and then I'll jump on to Hackadude's question, and then we'll go back in time to the first questions that were launched here today. What are deployments? So that's a really good question, because deployments is something we've been talking about at Replit for a while. So let me talk you through the way Replit currently works. Is that you write your code, you click run, and it's running, and it's available straight away, which is great. But let's imagine that you're building a web server. Let's imagine you're building it on Flask, or you're building it in React. You click run, the web server is active. The difficulty there is that if you need to change the code, if you're doing updates to it, you touch that code and you're going to break the live version of the site that's out to your users. And this is what we call like working on the development server. Basically, you're working live. And I'm a terrible person for doing this. Even back in the day, I remember I built a custom program for the school I was working at, and it was just a web app. And sort of, 10, 11 o'clock one night, I was doing some updates to it and patching it and doing it live on the server. And I remember going into work the next day and a colleague of mine going, "Were you messing around with the website last night?" And I went, "Oh yeah, I was." He was like, "I couldn't do any work. Everything kept going weird. Data got lost." And that's a very small scale. That's about 100 people that at maximum would have been using that. Imagine doing that on something that you have 1,000 customers for, or 10,000 visitors, and you're trying to edit live. When do you even do that? Because if you've got an international audience, like most things on the internet are, there's no good time to turn it off and fiddle with it. So what deployments are a way of working more like the traditional models that we use in software development, where we have a development server and we have a production server. And the idea is this, is that you can mess around with the development server and you can see that version of the website and you can change and edit that code all you want. But the production server is always that last version you pushed to it, and it's running separately. So nothing you do to the development server will affect the production server at all, unless you physically click the buttons to deploy it. And what deploy means is basically moving the development server over to production. That's when we're saying, right, we've debugged it, it's working. That's what we want to be our new version. Click a button, it copies it over, and it's running separately from what you're using for your development. So deployments is really, really important for that next level of software development work that you might want to be doing, where you're going to be serving up a site or serving up a web app that is going to have a customer base that are going to access that regularly, and it separates your development work from what's actually live. Now, people do this already on Replit with workarounds, but it's a lot more complicated, the workarounds they're using, than the deployments that we'll be bringing in. And basically, if you do want to host something on Replit and you want to have a consistent experience from your customers, then deployments is for you. Certainly, I'll be using that for any of the stuff that I'm going to be using in the future. I hope that cleared things up, and we'll take a better look at it when it launches, which hopefully will be reasonably soon. So the moment we have a Replit 101 after deployments has been done, of course, I'll do a video on deployments for you all, so you can see that and get all that up. Hydrogen has said the latest version of Rust is 1.6.8, which is, I think that's what we picked up, wasn't it? Well, you seem to be doing well with the comments, though, Hydrogen. Is that an ability just to type and not to read what you've written? Okay, so hopefully that QWERTY that answers the question about deployments. We'll have a proper look at it once it's been released, because it'll be nice to take us through that entire process and just see what that works like. And of course, I'll put some YouTube videos out just showing how that works and introducing the concept for people that maybe haven't come across it much, or have heard of it and don't really know what it is or why you might want to do that. Okay, the Hacker Dude says, I've heard of it as a controversial topic, but will Replit advertise custom languages? Okay, I need you to define two things for me here. One, what do you consider a custom language? And two, what do you consider advertising? If it's us like promoting it, well, that's the point of the community templates, really. The community templates, if I just go here, well, let's create something, If I create, I did this, the OpenAI stuff, right? can see which are the official templates, the ones that I suppose that we would like advertise. Oh, I did air quotes. Oh, feel disgusting. No, stop doing that. The ones that we advertise are the ones that we put our name on. They're our official templates. But our community templates, we also advertise. They just come up later down in the search results. So if you have a custom language, if you have if there's a language that we're not serving and you create a template for it, publish the template. It'll end up in the community templates and other people will be able to access it. And there's some great stuff in those templates. Even if you just look for Python, we've got our Replit Python ones, and then Hugo at Replit has got an HTTP server. Louis has got an ncurses version. There's loads of them as you go down. There's a P5, that is one of ours. There's a starter snake one, which, these are community templates, and not all of these are massively, not all of these are massively, I mustn't say useful, but, some of them are just a bit of fun. There's some good Hugging Face ones, by the way. If you're interested in AI stuff and you're looking at Hugging Face as an option, some great stuff there. But there's loads of stuff going on there, and that's the point of the community templates. So what I'd suggest, the Hacker Dude, is if you are interested in building something for a custom language, whatever definition of custom language you've got, is build the template yourself. Build up that Nix package and publish a template. Now, I'm sure I've got something published that is a template, but can I search specifically for a template? Probably not. Let me have a quick look here. Look in my repos if I can find a template. No, I don't. But I do have a template that I've published, which is a template for a specific Java game version with the sound APIs put in. Basically, I had a bunch of teachers using this for a course, I think last year, and loads of them asking me how to get the sound working, And the answer, unfortunately, was like, well, you need to make a template, you need to copy over these files, you need to put this line of code in. And it was just a lot of effort for a teacher. So I just did it myself, turned it into a template, and then the support questions disappeared because there's a community template out there that does everything they need. So community templates, the Hacker Dude, is your way forward. Okay. With that, then, let's pop to the top because Maria has given us a bunch of questions to start us off with today. And unfortunately, she's the live stream's a little bit late for her. But let's have a look at questions we've got here now. Okay, so in the solution video for day 62, you're casting a dictionary into a list to go through it backwards. When you turn a dictionary into a list, don't you lose the value entry. So what you lose is the key value pairs. If in this particular case, in this particular solution, there weren't really key value pairs. We were basically using a dictionary as a bit of a list anyway, or the keys weren't important to what we needed. We just needed like a list of the values, and we need to put those into a specific order. So you don't lose the value entries, but what you do lose is the key names. And again, not the end of the world in certain circumstances. So you're totally right. I think I was just being a bit lazy and being a bit lazy and being like, oh, I don't want to have to sort this dictionary. Oh, I'll just turn it into a list and do it that way. You'll find that's common in a lot of programmers. They've got a skill that they know, or this thing always works, and they'll do it, even if it's a bit weird. Yeah, you should see some of my like Java development stuff because it's very esoteric. Right, let's go to number 2 from Maria. Make sure I got all the questions up here. I noticed that some subroutines can access global variables without having been told, whereas others cannot. And this is Python, and this is really interesting. And let's get a Python REPL up, and we'll have a quick look at what we mean. Because the basic rule of thumb we need is that in Python, if your self-encoder attempting to directly access and change a variable with the equals command, or variations of it, plus equals, minus equals, then you need to declare it as global. If you're using a function to do that, then it'll probably be handling global and local variables separately anyway. So, I mean, that's the short of it, but I'll give you an example here. I'm going to make a value called total here. and a list called, interesting, let's call it my list. Let's make a subroutine and let's call it, probably not add ghostwriter. I'm just going to call it something. And I'm going to do total plus equals 1 print total. Okay. So you'll see that it's erroring straight away. And if I hover over that, you've got your Ghostwriter debug button if you're paying for Ghostwriter at the moment. So it's telling us what the problem is, and it's saying that total is defined outside of that. But if we did this, mylist.append total, it's not got a problem with that. It's a very different thing that we're dealing with, honestly. When we use .append, we're using a function. That is something that has been written by somebody else to deal with lists. And they've thought ahead and thought, right, well, what happens if they're trying to access a local or global variable? And they've dealt with that. They've done the global definition to be able to access it. So it's not that we're cheating by doing that. It's just that that's dealt with in other code. And the nice thing about Python is they've really reduced the amount of code that we do need to deal with, or that we do have to fuss with, and made it nice and simple. The legacy of that is that there are some weird things like this that don't make a lot of sense. If I am writing code to directly access something outside of a subroutine, I need to define it as global at the top of that subroutine so I'm able to access it. If I'm accessing something with another function, most of the time that's been abstracted into the function itself. So it's really two things we're dealing with here. We're dealing with direct manipulation, which is anything that involves the equal sign, and indirect function-based manipulation, like append here, where we're actually going out and going, you deal with it. Here's a thing, stick it in there. And the function already exists to deal with that. I think that's the example Maria gives here. Yeah, the list append function. Yeah, the file read function. Basically, anything that uses equals must have the variable defined as global if it's outside of the subroutine. And that's just the way it is, unfortunately. It's a bit of a legacy of two different paths. They're having functions to adjust some constructs, some data structures, which is what a list is. And direct manipulation means we're actually editing it ourselves. Okay. And Maria's also said, can you explain why there's a difference? Or maybe that's just Replit. No, that's just Python. That's just Python. And you'll have different things in different programming languages. Python is an interesting programming language. I've got a lot of time. I've got a lot of love for Python, but I've also got this bit where I suck my teeth because I taught it to a lot of people over the years. And there are some stumbling blocks that are just consistent because of the structure of the language. The indentation being part of the syntax being the most obvious one. And this is a stumbling block as well, and a common one. And all we can really do is look at it and go, if it's got an equals in, global it. If it hasn't got an equals in to manipulate it, don't worry and see if it works. But sometimes you even have to sort that out. By the way, this is why Ghostwriter Chat is so handy, because now it does the debugging. It is so easy just to click on the little icon and see what that error is when something's been underlined in red. You don't even need to click run for that to pop up. You don't even need to see it crash. It is so nice to have that functionality built straight in there. So the moment I see a red line in my code and I think it should work, I'll click that little button. And just to remind you, it's hidden a little bit in our UI, but if you hover over any error, the error checking mechanism in the code tries to tell you what it is, but that's not the best or the most easy to understand comment. So we click debug and it kicks it over to Ghostwriter. That gives us a good, really fast as well today, really fast explanation of what it thinks the problem is and how I might change it, which is pretty cool. Okay. And the last one is probably my issue. Day 67, my solution doesn't doesn't work. We'll have a look at that in a second, but I'm going to pick up on QWERTY's comment a minute. Wouldn't it be better just to get total as a parameter? To be honest, yes, it probably would, QWERTY. It would. That is a method. Sometimes, though, it's just, you need to do one thing and you need to do it dirty. Honestly, global variables should be something you use as little as possible if you can. Best practice when you're developing software is to use local variables most of the time and to pass them in and out of the subroutine, which is, I suppose, what you're saying there. We use global variables in 100 days of code because sometimes you can't avoid them and sometimes just make your life really easy. And certainly the strategies I've given you for dumping a list or a dictionary into a file and stuff like that, they don't work without global variables, unfortunately. So thank you, QWERTY. You're absolutely right there. Yes, it might be better to use it as a parameter. But let's have a look at the complaint for day 67. And let's see if we can see what that is. Now, that could be two things. That could be me being a muppet and typing the code out wrong, but it also could be translation error when we copied it over. So let me find 100 days of code. He says, it's usually at the top. Oh, it was right at the top. And let's have a look at day 67. I will scroll up a while and see what we've got. So 695 people have completed day 67, which is pretty good. I think we are past 100,000 people have started the course, which is quite nice for something that I've built myself. QWERTY says Takinta. Yeah, sorry, QWERTY. I hope you didn't get stuck into the Takinta part. I sort of felt like you can't really avoid doing something like Takinta because it's the most common GUI part. So I have to apologize yet again for using Takinta. I'm sorry. Right, let's bash along to the solution. There we go. Solution no peeking. Let's grab the answer. Let's pop that in there and run it. And where's the close button on this? Oh, it's there now, isn't it? Right. Stuff's happening. Oh, it is Takinta, isn't it? Oh, no. I wonder if this isn't working because the images aren't in there. Let's have a look. So I click find, unable to find this user. Who did I have? I had Mo. Let's bring Mo up. Oh, I love Takinta, don't you? What fidelity. Come on, find Mo. What's going on? Am I getting any output in my console? Oh, right. Yes, I'm crashing here. Containers not defined. I imagine this is a transcription error because if I go into my files now and have a look for day 67 solution, because of course I worked through all of this stuff 5 months ago. Wow. It doesn't feel like yesterday when we just started this. But I would imagine that if this should run, because this is my actual solution as I work through. Well, here we go. Yeah, we got up there straight away. Let's load. What I should have done really is resize these images before I put them in. Yeah, well, it's working here. So I'll tell you what we'll do. Let's copy that old code there. Let's go back to where we came from. Oh, I can never remember the previous button is on this. Oh, there we go. Back. There we go. Right. Okay. And the next one. Can we go back to the? Can we? No. Oh no. Right. Let's have a quick look at the history then. It must have been in there somewhere. Day 700 days. There we go. So if I paste my working code in there and run it, do we get the same issues? Okay, right. So I think this is an issue between my code and what we put in the tutorial file here. So, okay, so it'll all be .tutorial/guess who. So let me change that. So I'm going to use Control F to find and replace. I'm going to look for guess who. I'm going to replace it with .tutorial/guess who. If I replace all of those, that should change the structure of the image for me. What have we got in there then? We've got I bet the dot function's being weird. Let's do that. We use the dot tutorial because the dot starting point is like a default command in Linux to hide the folder. Right, I have to take a look at this in a bit more detail because presumably at some point I tried this out and it worked. So what did I do wrong? If I go to my history and I knock that back right to the initial paste there, it's not working. Let me get rid of these files a moment and just go back and have a look at my original sneaky code. Yeah, so the image URLs are wrong as well. Oh, have I done that? Oh no, I've got the capital W. I've got the capital W on there. Is the fold? Oh, the folder's got a space in it. What have I done here? What a muppet. Let's replace that with that. Oh no, what have I done? Okay, there we go. Right, okay. So I apologize to everyone that's done this day and wonder why it didn't work. No wonder so many people are just bailing onto Kinzer. I can't even set up the folder structure properly. Right, so let's go back in the history to the version where I'd done the dot tutorial bit. Okay, so store to here. If you haven't used our visual history, by the way, it's really, really good. It stores every single thing you do. So let's have a look at that now. While something's happening, let's have a look at the output. Oh, that's it. Yeah, so this is me being a muppet. I shall, I shall in the morning, because it is quite late for me now in the UK, but in the morning I will go into day 67. In fact, do you know what? I'm gonna get my pen. Old school technology, I know. I'm gonna write in my book to do this tomorrow. So day 67, folder structure and code is knackered. I think that's fair to say, isn't it? So I'm sorry, Maria. I'm very, very sorry that we made your day 67 experience a little bit of a nightmare. By the way, I saw on the we've got an unofficial Reddit. Somebody posted that meme of the kid looking out of the bus happily at the one side and the kid looking at the wall the other side looking miserable, and all about day 28. So was I really that mean to people on day 28 of 100 days of code? Write in and let me know if I was being mean. So Hydrogen said camel case is better. Camel case, of course, is where we remove the spaces and we just capitalize the start of each word so we can read it. Very important in hashtags as well. We've got some embarrassing incidents going on, as I think famously a British winner of Britain's Got Talent or something, Susan Boyle, found out a few years ago. If you put the hashtag out without capitalizing your letters, you get some weird stuff going on. Yeah, underscores, as QWERTY rightly said, is snake case. That's where you, instead of having spaces, you separate the variable names out with underscores. My personal favorite, I prefer camel case. And I think I prefer like Java style camel case, where the first letter of the first word is lowercase. And then we capitalize every preceding first letter of each word. And that's mainly because Java was like the dream of the 90s. So the programming language I did most of when I started learning to program. But there you go. We've got camel case and snake case as ways of doing that. And some people just type variable names without differentiating the words in them, which is very difficult to read. As I'm sure you can imagine. Right, so I'll fix this tomorrow. So I think we've finished all the questions in the live chat, and this is an absolute record for us, ladies and gentlemen, because we've gone until 5 minutes before the end of the live stream just on live chat questions, which is blowing my mind because that's amazing. Normally, I spend a couple of hours beforehand going through and getting ask questions together so we can start with those, but I haven't needed them today. I think we might have a quick look though. we've had I'm going to attempt to pronounce your name, but I've got a feeling it's Irish and I'm mispronouncing it. Iron, which is probably wrong, so I apologize. Do give me the phonetic pronunciation. I'm sure it's it does look Irish to me. Is the one I like apparently is called headless camel case, which I didn't know. I just assumed it was like strict Java camel case or something, but no, headless camel case. I'll keep that in my mind because that's always good to know. Again, sorry for the terrible pronunciation of your name. I'm usually all right with Irish names, but yes, apologies. Right, let's have a look at the Ask Forum and let's see where we're going. So if you've not used the Ask Forum is absolutely buzzing at the moment. Seriously, it is the place to go if you've got a question. They normally get answered. When we first started doing this, it's Ian, is it? Sorry, Ian Neil. Oh, I'm so sorry. I can see that now. Scottish Gaelic. That's why I hadn't seen it before. I'm so sorry. You think being Welsh, I'd be a bit more aware of pronunciations of of names and interesting pronunciations of names, wouldn't you? But there we go. My parents didn't deign to give me an interesting name, David. There are dozens of us, and if your name's David, good for you. But for me, also, David Morgan was the name of a shop in Cardiff, quite a famous shop as well. It's as if my parents just went shopping one day, pointed at a building and went, that's a good name. Why don't we use that one? There we go. So, if you've got a more interesting name for me rather than Oi Baldy, slap it in the comments for me. Maybe it's not too late to change it by default. Anyway, Ask Forum. Buzzing, absolutely the best place to go to get your questions answered. We're even doing our support from there now. So if you've got any questions, particularly technical stuff, or you're like, this doesn't work, post it in there. Community members will try and help out or escalate it to the right places, like our tech support team, who are amazing, if they can't handle it. So I wanted to bring this one up first because I think this is a fascinating question. And actually, this is probably the only question we're going to have time to look at today. And it's a very standard question. So I'm trying to import OpenAI Secret Manager. And everyone's asking, what is this? What is this? It looks like it's something there. And then Umar says something quite prescient, I think. He says, it looks like ChatGPT gave you code with some random private non-existent module. And in fact, that's probably what it's doing. ChatGPT does hallucinate code sometimes. It looks perfectly fine, but it doesn't work. Now, what it looks like to me is this here. It could be a private function that OpenAI has learned from some other from some other data source, but it's most likely just hallucinated it and made it up. And it looks good, but it's not a thing that you can use. Now, we talk a lot about just add your OpenAI API key into a REPL. And what we're talking about is that secrets manager all the time, going to secrets, naming it OpenAI API key, and popping it in there, just pasting it in so that it can be accessed. But we tend to access it then with just a get env var, which is just saying, look, operating system box I'm working in, you've got some secrets stored. Give me this one, give me that one. And normally you might need to import, like in Python, you might need to import the IO library to get that working successfully in some cases. But yeah, this is just a really interesting example. I mean, Ian, who's our community manager for Ask, who's a great guy, by the way, really, really helpful. He's a teacher in Scotland as well, Ian Neal. So there we go. When I speak to him tomorrow, I'll apologize to all Scottish people everywhere that I can't pronounce Scottish Gaelic, and I will do better in future. But Ian, who's our manager here, even he's saying, is there really an OpenAI Secrets Manager package? I can't see it, but there's stuff in Stack Overflow, and again, because Stack Overflow is being filled up from stuff from OpenAI and ChatGPT now, it's not always the resource that we wanted it to be, because it does hallucinate stuff. Now that hallucination is what makes the AI interesting, actually, because it's just adding randomness. Now, when you're writing your own applications against OpenAI's API, you can tell it how much you want it to be random. It's called a temperature value. And it's normally a value between 0 and 1, or in some cases in the older API, 0 and 2. 0 is basically don't make anything up. And the bigger numbers are, yeah, go crazy. You need to have it somewhere between there, though, because if you put it at 0, it'll just say, I don't know. And sometimes you want it to try and infer things and work stuff out. And that's why the AI is good. Now, as far as I know, in ChatGPT, even if you pay for ChatGPT Pro, you can't adjust the level of hallucination directly in there, which is difficult then when you're trying to do code with it. But if you are trying to do code on Replit, use Ghostwriter to suggest the code to you. You know, it is trained to give you proper code, valid code that should work. So it's not going to hallucinate random things like that, and you wonder why it's not working. And of course, this is a biggie for me, and I know we're going over time, but I'll finish up in a second. But the biggie for me is I get asked all the time, is there any point learning to code with AI being as great as it is? And the answer is yes. Yes, it is. Because if you can't code, with AI, you can cobble together a program now that does something that looks really cool and is much more advanced than you ever could have before. But if you can code, you're 10xing yourself because you're making your day-to-day much easier. Anyone coming out of 100 days of code that has Ghostwriter will be able to achieve and work through bounties, certainly bounties at a certain level, quite easily. And much more quickly than they could have if they come out of any 100 days course in the past. So, you know, if you've not tried bounties yet, I would encourage you to go in and look at the lower value ones and try them out and see if you can get something off the ground with them, because they are achievable even for people who've done 100 days of code, and especially if you've got something like Ghostwriter turned on. Okay, well, that's me done for today. Thank you very much, everyone that tuned in. It's lovely to have you all there live and in the chat. That's what makes it worthwhile for me, is interacting with the community. You know, I am part of the community team, and my favorite thing every 2 weeks is coming to speak to you guys. Don't forget that I've got a separate live stream that I'm doing now on the off weeks from this one. So next week, we're doing Old Coder New Tricks with some new wonderful art from Joe, our resident artist, where somebody from the community tries to teach me something new. Now, I've already been taught a little bit of React by Ironclad Dev, which was about 3 weeks ago. And this week, next week, Cody Lowe is teaching me all about Bitcoin. That's going to be at a very funny time, though, because for me, it's going to be 6:30 in the morning. And I think for everyone on the West Coast, it's about 6 o'clock in the evening, or sorry, 10 o'clock in the evening, something like that. So that's going to be an interestingly timed ones. They're a bit less consistent with time because there's multiple people being involved, but they are pretty good. Watch it on catch up. Or am I presenting a BBC TV show? Watch it as a VOD. Watch it as watch later on YouTube if you can. If you can't make it live, because they're a lot of fun. Because instead of me teaching you things and talking about stuff I'm knowledgeable about, you get to see me looking confused and scratching my big bald head and wondering why things don't work the first time I try them. But it's all about me as an experienced programmer trying to learn things that I haven't done before. So it's a bit of fun. That's going to be next Wednesday. So that's going to be Wednesday the 3rd. I say that. I say that very confidently. Yes, it is. Wednesday the 5th, which might be Tuesday night for some of you. I'll put up the links in the YouTube channel. Go and have a look at what's live and what's coming up, and you'll see what's going on. But anyway, thank you very much all for tuning in. It wouldn't be a Replit 101 without you guys in the live. And for all you hundreds of people that come watch Async, hi, come to the live sometime. Ask questions. It's great. Or be like Maria. Fill the live chat with questions before we start. Let's see if we can go 1 week where we only go for live chat questions. For everyone in the chat, thank you very much. For everyone that watches, thank you very much. We do appreciate it. But remember, there's loads of events going on Replit for our community. And at Replit, we're always shipping. So stay tuned for all the cool things that are happening in the next month. Bye.